My guest today is an incredible drummer for one of the premier progressive metal bands out, Periphery. Their new album, Select Difficulty, is available now, and they just kicked off their North American tour. I'd like to welcome Matt Halpern.
Hey, what's up, man?
Thanks, man. Nice to meet you. Happy to get a few minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So I know you guys just kicked off the tour last night, right? North Carolina. How was that?
It was great. Really, really awesome show. The vibe was fantastic. It's really cool to see people already singing along to the new songs and really, really getting into it. So it was great. Really, really good show. We're excited for tonight. We're in Atlanta right now, and we're about to kick it off. So very exciting. It's good to be back on tour.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, every time I look around online, it seems like you guys are kicking off a new tour. I mean, you don't get a lot of break from recording and the whole process. You guys are out there all the time.
Well, you know, it's funny. So, like, we actually haven't done a full-scale tour since November, and we were in Europe for that. We do a lot of, like, this year so far, you know, aside from writing the record, we've done a whole bunch of one-off shows. We've done some festivals in Europe. We've done some festivals in the States, but it's been really sort of sporadic in that regard. A lot of different things, but not any, like, big, long runs, you know, since November. So this is actually our first long run since then. So we're really excited just to actually be on the road and, like, you know, just be in it for a while instead of like in and out, you know?
Sure. The new album, talk to me about, I mean, you guys are prolific. You're putting out new music all the time. This album came really quickly after the last one. So what was sort of the driving force to get you back in so quick and to put out another album? How did it happen?
Well, we had some downtime after some touring that we were doing, and it's very natural for all of us to just fall back into the writing process because I think we just all really enjoy it. It's very organic for us to, you know, spend our time writing music when we are off tour, just because we really enjoy doing so. So we started writing just for fun, and we ended up, you know, figuring out that we had a few demos that we really, really liked. And, you know, we had some downtime and it just made sense to keep going. And then next thing you know, we had like, you know, we looked at our catalog and we had a good 20 to 30 demos of things that we felt really strongly about. And we just said, you know what, fuck it. Let's make a new record. Why not? You know, it'll be a year or so right after our last release. We are prolific. We didn't want to sit on the music very long. So, you know, it just made sense to us timing wise. And because we did have some downtime, you know, it really worked out. We were also in the process of switching management around this time period. So with that all going on and with us really focused on that, with the downtime, it just really made sense for us to launch this new record with new management, with new tours, all that stuff sort of together, sort of like as a new start for us. So it was very organic. It was very natural. We really enjoyed the process. It was probably the most enjoyable and easy writing process for any record we've ever done, especially coming off the heels of Juggernaut, which was a very grueling writing process for us. So this was much more lax.
You know, you guys, there's been sort of a subtle shift in the style of the group. It's still sort of the same thing, but subtly away from the sort of screaming vocals, a little bit more melody, and you added some strings and things lately. You know, it seems to be a natural sort of direction for the band, but I'm wondering if you're still getting sort of a pushback from some of those hardcore fans that just don't want to see the band evolve.
You know, everybody's got you know, their opinions about it, but I don't mean to sound you know, ungrateful or like even abrasive about this, but we just really don't give a shit. And I say that because we don't write music for the fans. You know, we are super honored that there are so many fans that really do enjoy what we do and that really do support us, and that's, you know, it's invaluable to us. We really, really love our fans, but we don't write music for them in mind, you know. And here's an example. I mean, we've had different people that we've worked with over the years come to us and say, hey, you know, let's get you guys on radio. Why don't you write a song for radio? And we're super against that idea, because anytime you're writing a song with an agenda, either for radio or to please a fan or to please anybody else, it's not authentic anymore. Sure. You know, you have this different purpose behind it. So at this point, you know, I think we're all very, very comfortable in expressing to people that, we write music for ourselves. The music we write is written because it's stuff that we want to hear and that we're not hearing elsewhere. And if people really like it, then that's fantastic, and that's it's great. If they don't, that's okay. We're not writing it for their approval. And I think this record represents where we are at this time. Right. Previous records represented where we were at that time, and that's all great, but it's history to us. We're not going to go back and try to write a record like P1 or Juggernaut unless that's truly how we feel at the time that we're going to be writing. And I can't say what our records will be like in the future, but I think for us, even being a progressive band, quote unquote, means that we can go any direction, and there's no boundaries. If we wanted to write a pop rock record, we're going to do it because we don't want to be labeled as any one kind of band. And I think progressive is a great term because it means that we can continue to progress as people, as writers, and not to say that we don't have a lot, not to say that we have a lack of care for our fans and what we're putting out to them, but again, we just really do it for ourselves, and we just, we hope that they support it no matter what. If they don't, so be it. Hopefully there's enough catalog of other stuff that they can get into still, and hopefully in the future we'll put out stuff that they will like,
Yeah, hey, that's well said, man. I think authenticity is the most important thing in music, so you continue to put that out there, it'll work,
Absolutely. Agreed.
I mean, look, for me, the new album is refreshing, and it's a pleasure to listen to. A song like Marigold, I don't think you guys do, a few years ago. So, talk about that song and just how that song came about. That's one of my favorites on there. So I'd like to hear the story about that.
Man. Yeah, well, that was actually one of those initial demos that I was talking about where Misha was experimenting with a lot of different orchestral sounds and orchestral instruments, and through that process of experimentation came up with the the opening riff of that song. Initially he wrote a good minute and a half to 2 minutes of what now is the full song, and we just loved it. It was so different. It had such a great vibe to it. It kind of reminded me of like a Muse sort of sound initially, like the very the really early demos of it, and now obviously it's evolved into something much different. But yeah, it was just, again, it was like, we in the band get obsessed with different things every now and then, and for Misha lately, he's been really, really obsessed with getting better at composition from an orchestral standpoint for both the purpose of scoring like video game music or like movies, and not even like officially, just to get that experience down. He's just been just playing around with the idea of like, what happens if I have a video game track or video game that I can score something to. So I mean, he's been putting himself out there to try to get like demo gigs like that just to see what he can do, and I think in that process a song like Marigold came out of that. So again, it was just very organic, and it was based off of the interests of the members. And then Spencer, as soon as he heard it, he pretty much came up with the verse and chorus part really quickly. I remember Misha sent all of us the initial demo with like the opening riff and the opening chorus part, and like a week later, Spencer came back with the chorus that we have now and the verse we have now, and we just built it out from there. So it was just a very organic process for that song.
The other thing I thought is interesting with the sequencing of the album, it kicks off with sort of the heaviest thing, The Price is Wrong, and I think Motor Mouth is also kind of is in that a little bit. And then really from there on, the album's, to me, sort of completely different. So, was that intentional, that sort of order?
I mean, based on the songs that we decided on for the record, I think, it made sense to hit people pretty hard in the beginning with some pretty heavy stuff. But, I think it could have gone either way. It's funny. We were considering, from a very, very, working title standpoint, we were going to call the record a mixtape, basically, because, there isn't one specific direction to the record. As you said, it does start off heavy, but then it kind of goes all over the place. You got a song like Catch Fire on the same record as where you have a song like The Price is Wrong. And if you looked at those two songs, by themselves, you would never expect the same band to put those two songs on the same record, So So, I think based on what we had, it made sense to organize it the way that we did. I don't know if there was any deliberate idea of like putting the heavy songs first or putting the heavy songs last or anything like that, but it just sort of made sense to put them in that order. But yeah, I mean, our whole mentality with this record was, let's just write the best songs we can, start to finish, and then whichever songs out of the demos we read are our favorite collectively, then those are the ones that we'll put on, and then we'll just figure out how to arrange them after that as far as what order they're in. So it was pretty, like I said, it was a pretty natural process of just laying the whole thing out. I don't know if there was too much thought into it,
I've been to one of your drum clinics, and I know how you talk about how you really follow how the guitars play and that sort of unique style that you have. I'm wondering, how has your drumming evolved with sort of the new style of the record, things like Catch Fire and stuff like that? Do you approach things differently from a drum perspective now?
I've always been really into songs as a musician. Like, I grew up playing rock and pop and styles that are not necessarily like what most periphery music sounds like. So for me, it's more of a return to form for what I like to do, which is, let's just write good songs that have good forms that are available, or that are rather open for vocals and for good lyrics. So for me, that's been something that as a whole band we've sort of been evolving, which is our approach to songwriting. It used to be, hey, let's write an instrumental song and then have Spencer put vocals on top of it, whereas now it's, let's write a song as a group and make sure that from the get-go there's room for lyrics, there's room for vocals, there's a story that's being told one way or another, there's a message that's being delivered, and something that's cohesive start to finish. So I think as a whole, not even just for myself, the approach has been more about the song and less about the parts, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I think you can hear that. I think you can hear that with the album. The last thing on sort of the current state of the band, but you guys still find a way to be successful and sell records and chart pretty high for a band that does the kind of music you do. What are you doing that sets you apart, and what would you tell a new band on how to sort of survive these days?
Well, I don't know what sets us apart because I don't really know what other bands do, honestly, but we feel a very, very strong connection with our fans. We believe that our fans are some of the best fans out there in any genre. I mean, we have people that come to our shows and see us play and they cry like they're at a Michael Jackson concert. And that kind of commitment and passion to see for a metal band like us or a progressive band is pretty amazing to see. So we feel a big responsibility to those people to be available to them, to interact with them, to not, have this veil between us that separates us from our fans. So we've always been very active, even back in the Bulb days when Misha was just uploading music onto soundclick.com and, letting people download stuff for free. We've always been very involved, and I think that tradition is carried on to current times. And, to this day, like last week, we hosted a camp for 100 of our fans that came out to upstate New York. We spent a whole week writing music with them, working with them on different instruments, just hanging out, having a great time, getting to know each other. And I think that really is part of our core values as a band, which is, look, we're no different than our fans. We're all the same. We all love the same kind of music. We all have very common interests, with our instruments and with the things we like. So why try to create a barrier between us? Let's be available for them, and hopefully they're willing to come talk to us. So we just make a point to incorporate that into everything we do, and every day to be involved one way or the other with actually communicating with our fans. I mean, people Snapchat us all the time. We do our best to respond to as many people as we can and really answer their questions, or say thank you when they compliment us, instead of just sort of ignoring it like a lot of people I think would assume a band would do. Because we hear that all the time. It's like, wow, I didn't think you would respond, and it's like, really? Like, we're all just people, Right. Like if you're a good person and someone says something nice to you, then you should respond and say thank you and that it's appreciated. So we just sort of live based off those core values of like what, do unto others as you want people to do unto you,
I think that's killer, man. Let me get you for a couple more minutes if you can. I want to just go, if I can take you to put your head back for the first album, and what do you remember about that time, about joining the band, making that first album, and sort of the initial success?
Man, I mean, so much of that really I have to attribute to Misha and all his work before we were even called Periphery. I mean, he had his own project called Bulb, like light bulb, where he was just, like I said, putting out music on this website called SoundClick, these free demos where he was really putting out these ideas that he wrote to work on his mix as a producer. And it just, people seemed to really gravitate towards the music and they really liked it. He built this really large worldwide organic following on the internet. So by the time that we actually put out our first record, we had this amazing leverage by having this just big foundation of great supporters all over the world. And it was predominantly instrumental music. When I came into it, that's really what I was learning were the instrumentals, and then the vocals came next. And, it was just such a different time for us. Our mentality was so different. We were really all about, I think, writing, as I said before, like really cool parts rather than as a band understanding the importance of cool songs. And so I just think the whole approach was just very young for us as a band. And, we really don't go back and listen to that record at all. It's kind of actually painful to listen to because as much as we do, respect the music and we don't forsake it for what it was for us and what it helped do for us. It's just so not where we are as people. It's so not where we are even as a band. I mean, there were different band members during that time who aren't with us anymore. So it was just a whole different experience altogether. It was a whole different group of people, a whole different mentality. We were sort of learning how to work together, learning how to interact, learning how to write songs, learning how to write music, learning how to tour. So it was a huge learning period for us, I think. And, we've just evolved so much since then. But again, I have to pay homage to that, and that was our beginning. That's how we started. That's how we built our initial foundation. And it's amazing that there are so many fans that are still along for the ride with us since that time.
Yeah, listen, that's you have to look at that and say, wow, it paid off immensely, putting that first thing out, and what a ride since then. I mean, congratulations on the success of the band. Really, it should be commended.
Thank you so much, man. I mean, it's when you live it every day, you don't really look at it that way. It's just kind of like everyday life, like getting up and going to work and doing any job. So those moments, really, like last night playing the show and seeing the whole crowd singing these new songs, it's pretty magical to actually feel how the music impacts people. Because, when you're home and even when you're interacting with people online, it's still, it's still within arm's length. You're not actually touching it or feeling it. But when you're at a show and you're performing the songs and you feel the energy, it's really, you really feel the connection and it's pretty special. So those are the moments that I think that now we live for as a band, to really get out there and be able to interact and physically, impact people with our music. It's pretty fucking cool.
Awesome. All right, man, listen, have a great rest of the tour. Thanks for taking a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Hey, man, thank you so much for, for the interest in us and wanting to talk to me about it. We really appreciate it too. So, thanks for taking the time to chat with me as well.
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you. All right. Take it easy.
Cool. Talk soon.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks to Matt for the interview. We're going to close with a track off the new album. This is called Marigold. For upcoming news and interviews, please check theprogreport.com, follow us on Facebook, @theprogreport on Twitter, or download the podcast on iTunes. Thanks.